I'm Christopher Chambers, and I have a very special show this evening looking ahead to next week and Valentine's Day and what has become a unique local tradition, Madison Shakespeare Company's A Valentine's Affair. A Valentine's Affair has been described as an evening of bite-sized tales of love, heartbreak, jealousy, and passion. This year's edition, the 6th and the first at the Bartell Theater since 2019, will feature a new collection of 8 scenes from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, The Merchant of Venice, Taming of the Shrew, Othello, and Henry VI. In studio with me tonight to tell us more and to give us a sneak preview are Annie J., director of A Valentine's Affair 2024, as well as the 2 most recent installments. She has performed in Madison Shakespeare Company productions, including Scandals and Desires, and will direct the August 2024 production of Love's Labour's Lost. Deanna Martinez, a Madison Shakespeare Company performer since 2013. She has been part of a number of productions since, including several of Valentine's Affair productions, and in the Don John role, rebranded Donna Gianna in 2022's Much Ado About Nothing, and as Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra. Deanna is also a classically trained singer who appears regularly with the Madison Opera. And finally, Jason Compton, who has been performing with Madison Shakespeare Company since the inaugural 2012 production of Julius Caesar. He has been producing for Madison Shakespeare Company since 2015. So welcome, Jason, Deanna, and Annie.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
So, I understand you have a couple of short excerpts for us tonight as a preview.
We do. If you want to jump right in, we can give you a taste of those. Absolutely.
Well, unless you have anything you'd like to add to my introduction.
Not to your introduction. You know what? That's a great idea. Why don't we do the first scene that we prepared for tonight? And just to set the scene a little bit, so in our production in Henry VI, Part 1, Jason is reprising the role of Suffolk, who is a gentleman of questionable integrity, one might say. I sometimes like to call the finale of this scene Suffolk wins, but until he doesn't. And then Deanna is playing the fabulous future Queen Margaret, who later in this play becomes the, as we describe her, the low-key protagonist of the whole thing when she marries Henry and sort of governs from behind the throne. But in this scene, in the confusion of battle, Suffolk takes a surprising prisoner, the daughter of Naples' king.
Be what thou wilt, thou art my prisoner. Oh, fairest beauty, do not fear nor fly, for I will touch thee but with reverent hands. I kiss these fingers for eternal peace, and lay them gently on thy tender side. Who art thou? Say that I may honor thee.
Margaret my name, and daughter to a king, the king of Naples, whosoever thou art.
An earl I am, and Suffolk am I called. Be not offended, nature's miracle, thou art allotted to be ta'en by me. Yet, if this servile usage once offend, go, and be free again, as Suffolk's friend. Oh, stay! I have no power to let her pass. My hand would free her, but my heart says no. Fain would I woo her, yet I dare not speak. Has not a tongue? Is she not here? Wilt thou be daunted at a woman's sight?
Say, Earl of Suffolk, if thy name be so, what ransom must I pay before I pass? For I perceive I am thy prisoner.
How canst thou tell she will deny thy suit before thou make a trial of her love?
Why speakest thou not? What ransom must I pay?
She's beautiful, and therefore to be wooed. She is a woman, therefore to be won.
Wilt thou accept of ransom, yea or no?
Fond man, remember that thou hast a wife. Then how can Margaret be thy paramour?
He talks at random. Sure, the man is mad.
And yet, a dispensation may be had.
And yet, I would that you would answer me.
I'll win this Lady Margaret. For whom? Why, for my king. Tush, that's a wooden thing.
He talks of wood. It is some carpenter. Hear ye, Captain, are you not at leisure?
Henry is youthful and will quickly yield. Madam, I have a secret to reveal.
What, though I be enthralled? He seems a knight, and will not in any way dishonor me.
Lady, vouchsafe to listen what I say?
Perhaps I shall be rescued by the French, and then I need not crave his courtesy.
Lady, wherefore talk you so?
I cry your mercy. 'Tis but quid for quo.
Say, gentle princess, would you not suppose your bondage happy to be made a queen?
To be a queen in bondage is more vile than is a slave in base civility, for princes should be free.
And so shall you, if happy England's royal king be free.
Why? What concerns his freedom unto me?
I'll undertake to make thee Henry's queen, and set a precious crown upon thy head, if thou wilt condescend to be my...
What?
His love.
I am unworthy to be Henry's wife.
No, gentle madam, I unworthy am to woo so fair a dame to be his wife.
And in our play, the scene continues, and eventually Margaret's father is summoned and asked for consent for his daughter to marry the king. However, as we know, and as we find out at the end of the scene, Suffolk has decided that he is going to rule both her, the king, and the realm, which is why I like to call it, and Suffolk wins.
Until he doesn't.
Until he doesn't. But as you can see, we purposely choose material that's diverse in terms of we're not just doing the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene every year. We're not looking at young love all the time, although we always look at young love. But we make sure that we have love in all different stages. We have complex love. We have older married love. We have unrequited love. We make sure that the program is all the loves, because one of our goals is that when you're driving home at the end or walking home after the show, that you and whomever you choose to attend with have a lot to talk about.
Fabulous. So Henry VI isn't the first play that generally comes to mind when we think of romance.
No.
No,
so I'm curious. And then also, these are all brand new scenes. You've been doing this for 6 years. Could you just tell us a little bit about the process of how you select new scenes, and that must keep it awful exciting and fresh for you as well as the audience to be doing different scenes each year?
Well, and I'll tell you, because this is the 8th affair show. The first 2 weren't Valentine specific, but every time we do one, I'm like, man, I feel like we've probably done all the good scenes at this point, and every year we get together and we find new and exciting and interesting things, in the scope of the, roughly 36 plays by Shakespeare. We have expanded since 2020. We always include at least 1 or 2 scenes from what we call the Shakespeares, or, kind of Shakespeare adjacent writers from that same period. But yeah, so Henry VI is a great example. So every time we do one of these shows, we always have an ensemble that has a mix of MSC veterans, and we try to get at least one person in the mix who hasn't been in an affair show before. So we get together and we do what we call a table read, just literally sitting around and reading the scenes with that ensemble. And we usually bring somewhere between 2 to 3 times as many scenes as we could put into an hour and a half program, which is what Valentine's Affair is. So we read through them, see not just does this scene on paper have an interesting face of love in it, or type of love story, but does it sound like the kind of thing that this ensemble of 8 actors is gonna give you their best performing? And over time, one thing that I've learned just through this process, and frankly developing as an actor with people like Deanna, who've been part of this process for over 8 years with us, is that as we are getting older, as we are not necessarily just the young lovers anymore, some of us weren't when we started, but it's in things like the histories, like Henry VI, like the tragedies, where you find the richer, more interesting, and frankly just more age-appropriate love stories. So it turns out that Queen Margaret is one of the best characters in Shakespeare, period. Not just one of the best female characters, although that's indisputable. She's just one of the best characters. And she has these complex, because she has her husband, the king, and she has her lover, the Earl of Suffolk. And as she navigates that dynamic while also trying to be a strong political actor herself, like that's the stuff. Lots and lots of people can do the balcony scene for you, but not everybody is going to do Suffolk and Margaret meet and develop this whirlwind courtship. So I'm, I will happily toot my horn on this. I'm thrilled that we're able to find scenes like this and bring them, to Madison audiences, even on the 8th go around. We've never touched this. Nobody around here does Henry VI. It has never been done out in Spring Green, period. So I'm excited that we can keep finding these fresh love stories in places that, right, you wouldn't think to look.
Yeah, fresh and complex, I think.
That's one of the things we really look for. I mean, one of the things about this ensemble is that it requires a lot out of all 8 of the actors, because everyone in it has to play different characters. There's no such thing as a one note. You don't cast the ingenue who plays the ingenue in 4 different scenes and they're playing the same character. That's just not what this show is about. And that's why the casting is so incredibly important, is that we find people who can play a huge range of characters, and that I purposely give people those opportunities, because that's why they keep coming back, and that's why we cast such incredibly talented people. And one of the things I was thinking about with Deanna is, so Deanna's also an opera singer, and one of the things we got to do this year is in As You Like It, she's able to sing, which we haven't really done before.
I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait for our Shakespeare audience to hear her voice at the end of this play.
Sweet. Very sweet.
Just like this year, we have fighting, which we haven't really had before. We have actual stage combat choreographed by Matt Korda, another local actor, and that's new as well. The level of fight choreography. We've certainly done some grabbing and shaking and falling and whatnot before, but I mean, this is a new level of Jason specific.
Grabbing, shaking, falling.
Grabbing, shaking, falling. I believe that's on your resume, Jason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like highlight special skills. Grabbing, shaking,
2-star
falling.
grabbing, 1-star shaking.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. -5 stars. But that's one of the things we look for as well, is that we use this incredibly talented ensemble in different machinations throughout each year's show.
And I mean, I know that we've done the show for, well, not this show, but a variation of this show for 8 years. But I feel like the show keeps on getting better every year, because we get more and more experience with creating shows of these formats, and we're able to add things like the fighting to this show. So, you know, even if you've seen the show before, it's a good thing to come back and see, because it's going to be an entirely different show.
Yeah, and as we were talking through the career thing there, I realized, so Deanna came to Madison Shakespeare, 11 years ago, playing, Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra, canonically a more mature version. We've talked about the difference between teen queen Cleopatra, who shows up in things like Shaw's Caesar and Cleopatra, but in A and C, she's meant to be a little more mature, not a kid. But Deanna really was in her early 20s at the time.
It was.
And, so in those early affairs, Deanna was playing characters like Juliet because, of course. So having gone from, the more mature Cleopatra and then like, what are we doing? Let's just have Deanna play Juliet. But now here we are some years later. And so, right, here's Queen Margaret, here's Lady Capulet, who, as we keep trotting out there, we spend more time in the love story of Lord and Lady Capulet than we do with Romeo and Juliet more years, because like
it's so much more interesting.
Yeah. And those two are clearly in love. And frankly, like there's stuff to do there that isn't just, we can see that, we can see the R&J, that story anywhere. So thank you, Deanna, for evolving into those roles.
Well, thank you for keeping it fun.
So has Valentine's Affair also evolved over the years, or were you kind of doing the same sort of thing right from the start?
The format has evolved a little bit over time. When we first did the very, very first Affair show, that was summer of 2015, and that was literally with a Madison Shakespeare Company that was in mothballs. We weren't even sure what we were going to call it, if we were going to have a company name attached to it. It ended up being the thing that sort of restarted that engine. So we've experimented with different ensemble sizes, different lengths of the show, different kind of scopes of how many scenes that are heavy, how many scenes that are light, how many scenes that are tragic, how many that are comedic, and those fluctuate over time. We've really seemed to lock in on the 8 performer ensemble. That really seems to be the sweet spot. We've had as few as 6, as many as 10. 8 seems to be that right level of everybody's got a little something interesting to do. You're not necessarily being beaten into powder by having to be in every scene for 90 minutes, and which gives the audience a chance too to how can I miss you if you won't go away. So the 8 member ensemble, different approaches. We've had 3 different directors over the years. We've always had what we call sonnets from a hat, which is we challenge an actor to come on, give them a sonnet completely at random, take audience suggestions, improv style, for what character and what situation that character is in, and they perform the sonnet in that style. So how the sonnet gets slotted into the show, who does them, how many we do in a night, those are things that we've massaged over time. But again, because there's the ability now to go into the works of Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Middleton, Thomas Heywood, John Donne, being able to sneak those in and say, this doesn't quite sound like Shakespeare. It doesn't. Well, no, it sort of does, but he's got a different take on this, or he speaks very naughtily indeed about lady parts, in ways that Shakespeare didn't. So we're always experimenting with it, so that each year, hopefully, people will keep coming back.
And it's a different show each year.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And like Jason was saying, I mean, we experiment with different tones as well. Like last year was most definitely darker than the year before. It was significantly darker than this year. This year is much lighter. I describe this year's show to a lot of people as way more kissing. I actually say different words that I'm not going to say on the radio, but I say more kissing, more laughing, and more fighting. And it's more of a ride this year. Last year, we got a little more serious, which again, there's value to all of that. And then a couple years ago, it was a little bit more of a mix. A couple years ago, we had more non-Shakespeare scenes as well. This year is pretty heavy Shakespeare. There's only one non-Shakespeare. But like Jason was saying earlier about Henry VI Part 1, one of the things I value from a very selfish directorial standpoint is the scene format allows us to pick scenes from shows I might not like, but I like the scene. So it's very, very, I guess it's a fun exercise for me to pick a scene that I'm crazy about out of a show that I might not like. But do you think we should probably read the next one, perhaps?
Yeah, you got it. And Deanna, you want to introduce this one for us? Or is it?
I actually...
You have...
Do I have the intro?
You have the important, the play of the scene, and then those magic two words.
So for this scene, we're going to be doing a scene from The Taming of the Shrew, where Petruchio meets Caterina.
If she do bid me pack, I'll give her thanks, as though she bid me stay by her for a week. If she deny to wed, I'll crave the day when I shall ask the banns, and when we be married. But here she comes. And now, Petruchio, speak. Oh, good morrow, Kate, for that's your name, I hear.
Well, have you heard, but something hard of hearing. They call me Caterina, that do talk of me.
You lie in faith, for you are called plain Kate, and bonny Kate, and sometimes Kate the cursed. But Kate, the prettiest Kate in Christendom, Kate of Kate Hall, my super dainty Kate, for dainties are all Kates. And therefore, Kate, take this of me, Kate of my consolation. Hearing thy mildness praised in every town, thy virtues spoke of, and thy beauty sounded, yet not so deeply as to thee belongs, myself am moved to woo thee for my wife.
Moved! In good time, let him that moved you hither remove you hence. I knew you at first, you were movable.
Why, what's a movable?
A joined stool.
Thou hast hit it. Come, sit on me.
Asses are made to bear, and so are you.
Women are made to bear, and so are you.
No such jade as you, if me you mean.
Alas, good Kate, I will not burden thee, for knowing thee to be but young and light.
Too light for such a swain as you to catch, and yet as heavy as my weight should be.
Should buzz.
Well taken, and like a buzzard.
Oh, slow-winged turtle, shall a buzzard take thee?
Aye, for a turtle, as he takes a buzzard.
Come, you wasp, faith, you are too angry.
If I be waspish, best beware my sting.
My remedy is then to pluck it out.
If the fool could find where it lies.
Who knows not where a wasp does wear his sting? In his tail.
In his tongue.
Whose tongue?
Yours, if you talk of tails, and so, farewell.
What, with my tongue in your tail? Nay, come again, good Kate, I am a gentleman.
That I'll try.
I swear I'll cuff you if you strike again.
So may you lose your arms. If you strike me, you are no gentleman, and if no gentleman, that why then, no arms. Go, fool, and whom thou keepst command.
Did ever Diane so become a grove as Kate this chamber with her princely gait? Oh, be thou Diane, and let her be Kate, and then let Kate be chaste and Diane sportful.
Where did you study all this goodly speech?
It is extempore from my mother wit.
A witty mother, witless, else her son.
Am I not wise?
Yes, keep you warm.
Marry, so I mean, sweet Caterina, in thy bed. Thus, in plain terms, your father hath consented that you shall be my wife. Your dowry agreed on, and will you, nill you, I will marry you. Here comes your father. Never make denial that upon Sunday is the wedding day.
I'll see thee hanged on Sunday first.
Bravo. Thank you.
And that was us cheating a little bit, as neither Annie and I will be in that scene, but the performers who are responsible for that one are not here this evening. So we just wanted to sneak that in as a popular classic that is in this year's collection.
Very well done. And hopefully this little taste of a Valentine's affair will get some people out to the theater next week.
Yeah, we will have 3 performances. On February 13th, we have 1 performance at 7:30 p.m., and then on Valentine's Day proper, we have showtimes at 7 and at 9 p.m. All of those shows are at the Bartell Theater. Some years the show has moved around, but we're very pleased, actually, as part of our very first production now as a resident company at the Bartell. We're hoping to have a nice, stable, permanent home for Valentine's Affair. So there's additional information about how to get those tickets on the Bartell Theater website for the that debut performance, 7:30 on February 13th, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Valentine's Day itself. That's actually another change. You were asking about what's changed over the years. There's obviously where Valentine's Day falls in the course of the week sometimes plays in a little bit, but there are also other societal factors that come into play. And a couple of years ago, when the National Football League expanded its schedule, the date that the Super Bowl happens moved 1 week out. And because that's frankly a de facto national holiday and party day. So when you've got the Super Bowl when it falls super, super close to Valentine's Day, we discovered that people are willing to go out and have a good theatrical Valentine's Day time before the Super Bowl. They'll rob Peter to pay Paul later on that. Once the Super Bowl hits and they've had their beer and their pizza and their Doritos, they need a day or two to recover. So we've had to look at how we schedule, not just in terms of is Valentine's Day a school night, blah, 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 but where does the Super Bowl fall? So that is something that, those bank holidays and other massive national events do affect something like Valentine's Day.
Well, and that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to about the 9 p.m. show, about being able to do. We're so grateful to Strollers Theater and Mother Courage for allowing us to share their stage on their dark nights to do these shows. But the other part of that is, too, the fact that we get to do the 7 p.m. and the 9 p.m. on Valentine's Day proper. I am a traditionalist who believes in celebrating holidays like my birthday on the actual day, even if it's a Wednesday, for example. Sure. And one of the things I've been talking to my coworkers about is the 9 p.m. show. This show zips along. It is under 90 minutes. It's really closer to maybe 75 or 80, depending on. The uproarious laughter does tend to make it last a little bit longer, but it's worth it. But thinking about, a 9 p.m. show on a Wednesday night, well, it's a 9 p.m. show that you're going to feel like is a 2-second show, and you'll still be out by 10:30. It's right downtown in Madison. So for most people, you can go out to dinner beforehand and then come to the show at 9 o'clock. Or if people wanted to come to the 7 o'clock, they can go to the 7 o'clock show, maybe have dinner and drinks afterwards. It really allows people a lot of choices and a lot of opportunity when you're nestled right on the Capitol Square where there are so many other places to go. And also, I'm curious from Deanna, since she's been in so many, do you have favorite roles or favorite scenes that you've been a part of?
Well, I definitely do have favorite characters that seem to keep on me popping up. At this point, I think I've done 4 or 5 shows where I've reprised Lady Capulet in some form, and I quite enjoy it because it's a different take on the characters. Romeo and Juliet, everybody focuses on Romeo and Juliet, and we get to do these love scenes that are not the things that people focus on, and being able to just kind of play with the character and grow with it and mold it as you go along has been very satisfying. I also enjoy, like we spoke on before, the wide range of characters that we get to do, because it's not just I'm playing Lady Capulet and these and a princess and these kind of things. I'm also playing essentially a young spunky younger sister who is standing up, trying to back up her older sister in one of these other scenes. And so there's just a wide range of scenes and characters that we get to play. So it's not just any one note. It's a lovely journey that we get to go on.
I'm surprised you didn't go straight to Regan from King Lear.
That one I forgot about, and that one was fantastic.
Yeah, I would say in terms of what the audience would say Deanna's favorite role was, because she really leaned right into killing that servant. She looked so happy.
Much fun. It's always so much fun to do stage combat.
And passionately embraced her husband afterwards. It didn't. I mean, he was going to die later. I mean, it didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. It was the living in the moment, sharing murder and dismemberment together.
I think that was the show that you got stabbed
that was
so many
that
times.
Was the show that 3 of the 10 scenes ended in either my death, beating, or implied death.
It was great.
And weirdly, that one was not directed by me.
No,
strangely,
before your time. And that one was the darkest of all. That was when we explicitly themed everything around betrayal. So it's like, okay, well, we've done that. Maybe we'll try a Valentine's show next time.
So this is not just roses and chocolates on Valentine's Day.
No, we do for the Valentine's shows try to keep it the bulk of it. Even if you walk away going like, I think I know how this play ends, and it's not going to go great for them. We try to leave the majority of the scenes with some sort of like, oh, well, good. I'm sure everything will work out fine. And that marker for the tremendous loan will never be called in by the moneylender. You know, things like that. We'll let you fill in those blanks if you care to.
The priest's plan with Romeo and Juliet, that'll work out just fine.
It'll be fine. Friar Lawrence explains it all. He fixes the whole thing.
He's got such good ideas, that Friar Lawrence.
He does have good ideas. Well, and that's the other thing, too, is Jason actually writes these host segments that we have before every scene other than the beginning opening scene. And I have just gotten so many compliments over the years on Jason's host segments because they're exactly the right amount, since we're doing all these scenes that are in the middle of plays or perhaps in plays people don't even know at all. And the host segments really help direct that for people who I encourage to come in not doing homework. Sometimes people feel like, oh, it's Shakespeare, I have to do all this homework ahead of time. No, you don't. Come have a drink.
You mean our audience doesn't have to be a Shakespeare scholar?
They sure don't.
Oh, that's lovely.
We tell you exactly what you need to know.
They might like it more if they're not. But we'll take everyone.
True.
Very good. And then there's the Sonnets from the Hat, which that sounds like
different every year.
That's worth the price
Every
of
year.
admission right there. Yeah. A little improv, a little bit of everything.
And we have different people involved every year as well. So we have a lot of different voices involved in the Sonnets from a Hat. And it's so fantastic. We rehearse them as well because you have to get into the mold of doing this improv. And it's some of the most fun part of rehearsal, especially as we get into Tech Week. It really lightens the mood.
Very good. All right. Well, you've been listening to Radio Literature. This is Christopher Chambers with the Madison Shakespeare Company talking about their show, A Valentine's Affair, next Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Tuesday, Wednesday, February
Tuesday
13th,
and Wednesday.
14th.
Yes. In the meantime, y'all have a good week. Maybe hope to see you at the theater.
Thank you for having us.
Come back next week for another episode of Radio Literature.